we want to talk about luxury in Albuquerque, luxury homes. And let's just talk about a definition real quick. When people talk about what is considered a luxury home, there's a general rule of thumb in the real estate world that says homes that are in 10% of all the homes sold in the market at the highest price point are considered luxury.
And so, Tego, we're members of Luxury Division of Real Broker, which you have to qualify by selling so many homes over a certain price. I think that when I filled out the qualifications for us to join Real Luxury Division, it was homes over $750,000, and it was like 3 listings and three home sellers represented and 3 buyers represented in a time frame to even qualify to join Real Luxury. But when we are part of Real Luxury, there's a lot of extra perks and benefits for our home sellers of luxury homes, like that international exposure that we get to share with our colleagues around the country.
Well, the networking piece is big. Obviously, the training and working with luxury buyers and sellers, it's not the same. And so you've been involved in all that training and understanding that and living in that world. But so let's talk about Albuquerque.
Great.
All right. So in Albuquerque let's say in the last 12 months, there were just over 10,000 homes that sold in the greater Albuquerque area. And remember I said, it's
top 10.
The 10%, top 10%. So that would put homes over 600,000 and above are considered luxury. So if you're wondering if you're in a luxury home, is it worth $600,000 or more? And then the answer is yes. And there were just over 1,000 $600,000 homes sold in Albuquerque in the last 12 months.
10,000.
Yeah, of the 10,000.
So that's 10%.
That's 10%. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
so
of course.
So 600,000. But when we get up to 1 million, let's call that the ultra luxury. That's the top 2% of all the homes that sold in Albuquerque. So it's just about 200 homes right around that $1 million and above, a little bit below. I mean, I think you did a search and went up to like 999 or whatever, something like that, right? But yeah, so it's interesting. It's only 2%, $1 million and above. And you can buy a lot of home in Albuquerque for $1 million.
So you keep saying Albuquerque homes, and I want to be clear. Albuquerque real estate is the whole metro area. This is Placitas. This is the East Mountains. This is Los Lunas. This is the whole metro area, Edgewood. So, Tego, I also did some research on it.
Yeah, let's pull up the map. I'm going to pull up the map as you're talking about that.
So, Tego, my numbers were a hair different than what you prepared because I prepared for properties listed at $999,000. So when you first pulled this up, I went, there's way more than that. Well, you had to point out to me that they've grouped things together. So those circles that say 23, 24, 22, they lumped together. So when you zoom in, you can see there's Corrales. There's quite a few active right now in Corrales for sale. There's 2 pending in Corrales. There's 2 pending right by our office in the far North Valley. There's Los Ranchos has a pending and an active. But, when you look at it in the big picture, Tego, we can kind of say there's a few parts of Albuquerque that tend to have most of our luxury homes for sale. So high desert area, North Albuquerque Acres,
So
Corrales.
let me pull that up. Let's look at that. So if you're online, we're looking at the map so you can get a sense. Let me just pull up the map
Look,
here.
Tego, One Coyote Trail just came on the market in the last 24 hours.
Yep,
I hadn't even seen that yet.
Real time, yep.
That's a very south end of Corrales, that address.
So now we're looking at the North Valley and the far northeast heights. And so you'll see that most of those homes that are for sale are North Albuquerque Acres, right? So what's North Albuquerque Acres like, Tracy? Just kind of explain what that area is like up here.
North Albuquerque Acres tends to be acre lots that are actually 0.89 acres for the most part. They vary. But they're where people buy their own lot, find their own builder, and do a custom home typically. And it's pretty much the area north of Paseo del Norte and a little bit south of Paseo del Norte down to the top of Tanawan there. And then we have Sandia Heights, which is, the foothills of Albuquerque. And kind of those older, also where people bought their own lot and hired a builder. So there's no cookie cutter in those areas. And then we have High Desert, which is also in the foothills, but the master planned High Desert community. And you can see there's a few in the 1 to 2 million range on the market, a 2 million in pending sale, a 3 million in pending sale, which is more like Glenwood Hills, I think, which is also the foothills. Yeah, Paseo del Puma is just on the south side of High Desert. So you can see a lot of concentration in the far northeast part of Albuquerque. The other thing, Tego, right by Albuquerque Academy, the new construction by Pulte Homes, there's one there. And when we get to closed, you'll see quite a few that were sold above $1 million in that area. Let's go over to the west side because we've got Oxbow that's above the bluff. And we have the west side. There's a few neighborhoods there with $1 million properties and all the way up into Rio Rancho and Corrales. So what's surprising, Tego, is when I started, doing the whole Metro Albuquerque search, there's the Oxbow that you're looking at. So for people who are watching online, Water Willow Place. Those homes tend to have spectacular views, some of them of the water in the river all the way to the mountains. So a great location for people who want to be kind of close to getting to the airport or downtown or uptown, close to I-40.
Let's just talk about, so I zoomed back out on the map here and we're looking at kind of the whole area. So we've talked about North Albuquerque acres, what that's like, right? It's larger lots, estate lots, as you could say, custom builds, Sandia Heights, Rolling Hills, again, custom builds. A lot of those are older homes. You've got High Desert where you've got a mix of homes, but then you have the estate lots that are up closest to the foothills and the mountains, and then the valley. So we haven't really talked about the valley.
Let's go to closed sales. So we're looking at that map next, and we'll talk about the valley. So the valley is sort of near North Valley, Mid Valley, Far North Valley. And that's where we're finding the properties in the North Valley. So the North Valley has older properties. It's got some newer properties. When I actually looked through the homes that have sold, it's a variety. We've got El Caballero off of Chavez. We've got Tinnin Farms. We have newer Francisca, that's Tinnin Farms. We have some in Dietz. We have the near North Valley. So kind of the valley can be, those acre lots or more, but some of them are on sort of infill, very high quality custom homes that are on more infill type lots. Acequia Trail.
And in the North Valley, unlike, let's say, gosh, I don't know what to say. It's more rural. It's more of a rural feel, right? Than maybe North Albuquerque acres, some of the stuff in the Northeast Heights. You've got maybe people with horses. You have, a variety like that.
Oh my gosh, yes. You go out and show houses in the North Valley. And I've shown a lot of these streets. When I saw the street names, I went, oh yeah, I've shown Acequia Trail. Oh yeah, I've shown that street. But a lot of times when we're out showing homes, you have to stop to let the guinea hens walk across the road, or a big flock of geese is in the irrigation that's been flooding a field, and you can stop and enjoy that. You can see horses and llamas and ostrich and all sorts of things as you're in the valley, just like Corrales. Pretty awesome. Plus other parts of our city too.
So I'm moving down to Oxbow. I want to talk about Oxbow area, and then I want to talk about Corrales, and then I want to even talk about Rio Rancho, believe it or not. I know. Yep. So let's talk about Oxbow.
So Oxbow was also a master plan community where they developed the lots, put in the streets and the underground utilities on the bluff up above the river on the west side, just north of I-40. And they sold the lots individually so people could choose their own builders and put together their own custom floor plan and have their house built. And some really beautiful, unique properties there.
The other thing about the North Valley, you've got let's say the west side of the river, as well as when we think North Valley, we usually think of the east side of the river, but you also have some areas north of the river. So you have riverfront estates,
you have Black Farms.
Black Farms, right.
You also have Andalucia, and I know you moved the map a little bit, but Andalucia, south of Montano, is that master planned neighborhood across from Jinja. Mm-hmm. And the lots down by the river can definitely be over $1 million. We sold one probably 5 years ago, or I did, probably at least 5 years ago, that was over $1 million in Andalucia.
Now let's go northwest of the kind of the Metro Valley Albuquerque area. Let's talk about Corrales.
Corrales, so very rural, right? Horse capital of New Mexico, considered to be one of the lowest crime places in New Mexico, and it's got its own unique quirks. A lot of neighborliness there, right? They've got parades, they've got like the horse parade and the Christmas Caballero parade. They've got ball fields, they've got a swimming pool with like all summer. They've got lessons and things. They have tennis and pickleball courts, and you see people doing things in Corrales along with all the different animals and the trails to walk and ride your horses. Rio Rancho, Tego. So the area west of Presbyterian Rust Hospital, where people have bought their own lots and hired builders. We've seen some sales over $1 million there. Actually, right now, if you were still on the active and pending, one of the houses we listed recently is over $1 million, and it's sitting in pending sale right now, very close to Rust Hospital on a lot. But so all over. But
yeah, so let me can I just, I want to talk about, what I'm really interested in is how diverse we have in Albuquerque, right? We've got the rural areas, let's say Corrales, even the South Valley, Los Lunas, some of those areas, Bosque Farms, you can find big estate lots, rural areas, again, North Valley, Corrales, that type. But then you go over to the west side, like Black Farms, Riverfront Estate. These aren't necessarily rural. You've got large estate homes, more modern maybe than some of the haciendas type homes you see in Corrales and the North Valley. And then now Rio Rancho, where you have some of these homes that I would consider like ultra modern homes in some of those areas up in what we call Unit 10,
Yeah.
west of
Rust.
west of Rust.
Yeah, and what we haven't talked about yet is the other side of the mountain. I feel like I have to sing a song. The other side of the mountain.
I know. So go back to the
So
kids.
we've got Paa-Ko, we've got San Pedro Creek, we've got San Pedro Overlook. We have other neighborhoods on the east side where we do see $1 million sales. So I know we started this segment by saying luxury is 600,000 and above, but we had to limit it to $1 million and above to really be able to focus on where they're really at. There's some $1 million sales even Edgewood and south of I-40 in the East Mountains. What surprised me the most is when I got to the map and showed active pending sales, which I don't think we have active pending sales on one slide here, but in the Los Lunas, Bosque Farms area, quite a few. Right now, there's a pending sale in the Los Lunas area, very close to the freeway. And I thought, wow, that must be on a big piece of land because it was very pricey. I need to find it here. $1,210,000, and it was not on a big lot. It was 0.41, and that one's pending sale right now.
So what's different about Los Lunas?
What's different? It's kind of booming right now. We've got a lot of employers that have been moving in there, jobs, and their policies, I think, are very forward right now. They're really working to attract businesses, attract people, and make sure they have jobs.
So, okay, you started talking about the East Mountains, but let's go back to that real quick again, because I'm trying to, what I want this section to be is about like all the different areas that people look at for luxury. So we've got, you talked about the East Mountains. So Mountains is a little bit, again, a different landscape. What's different about the East Mountains? When we say East Mountains, that covers a big gamut, right?
It does. East Mountains can be just a lot that has, a house. It might have septic and well, feel very rural. It could be very treed. It could be very much out in the prairie. But the few neighborhoods that come to mind, like Paa-Ko has in my opinion, world-class golf course. They have, a restaurant in the golf course clubhouse. They have homes for sale that are on the golf course or not on the golf course. They have some that back to open space, just beautiful homes. And Paa-Ko was the same, where it was a development where they split up all the lots and sold them individually so people could find their own builders. So there's nothing cookie cutter there. San Pedro Creek, which is right next to Paa-Ko, is 10-acre home sites, and most of them are right at 10 acres. There's a few that are larger, but it's a minimum of 10 acres. And you cannot fence the whole 10 acres in San Pedro Creek. They leave the land open so the wildlife has its natural habitats, but a lot of huge views from San Pedro Creek estates, just big. Then there's San Pedro Overlook, which was kind of developed after San Pedro Creek. It's a gated community with sort of concierge services. And the lots there tend to be 3 to 5 acres, so not the 10 acres. But for people who just really love to be in nature and it's just beautiful out there, I used to work in San Pedro Creek. I started my real estate career there 22 years ago, selling land in San Pedro Creek. And it was just beautiful being out there every day and walking the land. But it's like from our house in Corrales, it was a 45-minute drive. So if you want to get to the international airport and live on the other side of the mountain up by San Pedro Overlook or Paa-Ko or San Pedro Creek, getting to the airport isn't like some big cities. It's like you can have the best of it. And there's great restaurants on the east side of the mountain and shops.
And again, it's that mountain vibe. It's that kind of living in the mountains feel, which again, it's I'm just getting back to this whole diversity thing about, all these different options. Okay. And then lastly, let's talk about Placitas and maybe a little bit about Mariposa.
Sure. Placitas and Mariposa, a lot of times I show the same client both of those communities because they're a little bit out there. You can have big views. And sometimes people want Placitas, and then I take them to Mariposa, and they go, oh, I love this. So let's talk Placitas. So Placitas is very much like on the way to Santa Fe, right? People kind of go, oh, this feels like Georgia O'Keeffe paintings, right? With the scrub sagebrush and the views, and you can see to the Jemez with a lot of the lots, or you can see the Sandias out the other direction. It's kind of rolling hills and big parcels.
That's what I was going to say. The topography is very different than Albuquerque, East Mountains. It's more of a New Mexico, kind of northern New Mexico vibe with the rolling hills and the huge views. And
the landscape. And then there's the wild horses that roam freely that I'm sure people feed. Not that I've seen it. Okay, I saw somebody feeding them. But people leave out water for them and things. We've seen the wild horses, though, when we rode the rail runner to Santa Fe one day. They were out along the tracks. So, Placitas has its own vibe, and, they've got a few places for the people who live there to gather, some cafes and some art studios. A lot of artists that seem to like to gravitate when they have open art studio days. Placitas has a lot of stops at people's home studios.
As I was moving the map around, Tracy, I realized we haven't talked about this neighborhood in Bernalillo, which, I mean that in the sense that it's like we don't think of Bernalillo, the village of Bernalillo, as having some of the most premier estate properties in the entire Metro Albuquerque area, but we do. It's on the west side of the river, right?
Bosque Encantado, yeah. I actually had some data on that, so I'm glad you brought it up. But Bosque Encantado is a beautiful neighborhood down by the river. Again, beginning of that neighborhood, it's gated. The west end of it is half-acre lots, a third-acre lots, and there's a few half-acre, and then the rest are all at least full-acre lots. Beautiful custom homes in there, and, quick out of there from 550 to I-25. But
one last one. Let's hit on Mariposa since we're kind of doing the north.
So Mariposa,
the north side of the area here. Yeah.
Mariposa is a master planned community in far northwest Rio Rancho, developed by the same people who developed the high desert in northeast Albuquerque. And we have a variety of builders in there. So we've got production built homes that, one builder took out maybe 100 lots and they built there, and another builder, there's several different builders still building in Mariposa, beautiful homes, and there's estate lots. So you can find, $1 million properties there or a $400,000 property. And right next to it is Mountain Hawk, where there's a lot of new construction for production built going on right by the Armory, is it called?
Yeah, the Armory.
The National Guard. Yeah.
So
there you go.
We covered a lot. We've had the screen share here. You haven't seen us, but here, let's bring us back on screen, Sam. And
I think we went on way too long, but there's just so much to talk about in luxury.
Well, I think it's fine. I mean, if somebody is interested in luxury and higher end homes in Metro Albuquerque, this gives you a really good overview of the entire community. And of course, you can reach out to us and we can get much more detailed on what's out there and what's available. Did you have any more you wanted to hit on luxury homes?
I just had a quick stat or three.
Okay.
Active of those properties that are $1 million or above priced, their average price per square foot right now is $380 $84 a square foot. For those,
I remember in 2021, there was a home that sold for over 300 a square foot. It was the first time ever in the Albuquerque area. I was very familiar with it, and it was unprecedented at that point.
what year?
No, 2001. I'm sorry. What did I say? 2021?
Yeah.
2001. Yes.
But we weren't even in real estate then.
I know, but we lived in the neighborhood that it sold in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of the houses that are in pending sale that were priced at $1 million and above, they were average square foot list price was $343,000. So there you go. Luxury homes in Albuquerque and the whole metro area.
More than you ever wanted to know. But
or not enough.
Thanks for watching the video all the way to the end. We appreciate you. And please click subscribe. We'll keep you updated on what's going on with real estate in the Albuquerque area and New Mexico, and of course, across the entire country. Have a great one.